Live stream started.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm just trying to deal with a technical problem there. Hello. Right. I'm Councillor Philip Davis. I'll be chairing this hearing of Subcommittee C of the Licensing and Public Protection Committee of Birmingham City Council today. And before we start, we've asked all other than committee members to mute their microphones in order to improve the sound quality while I talk about procedure, and also to turn off cameras, again, other than committee members. This helps with the technical functioning of the broadband. Committee members will have their cameras switched on throughout the hearing. And could everyone obviously make sure their mobile phones are on silent and that they're in an environment where there are minimum distractions. And it's vitally important, obviously, given the nature of these meetings online, that everyone is able to hear me and members of my subcommittee and officers. Any distractions brought to my attention could result in the meeting being suspended temporarily or to another date and time under the regulations for these types of meetings. I confirm that this is a public meeting and is therefore being live streamed on the City Council's website in order that the general public can view it. And the formal agenda is as follows. Item 1, notice of recording webcast. I advise the meeting to note that this is a public meeting and is being webcast for live or subsequent broadcast via the Council's meeting YouTube site, by the link in the agenda, and that members of the press and public may record and take photographs except where there are confidential or exempt items. Item 2, declarations of interest. Members are reminded they must declare all relevant pecuniary and non-financial interests arising from any business to be discussed at this meeting. If a disclosable pecuniary interest is declared, a member must not speak or take part in that agenda item. Any declarations will be recorded in the minutes of the meeting. Item 3, apologies and notification of nominee members. Apologies submitted on behalf of Councillor Brennan and Councillor Eustace today, and Councillor Leddy. Myself and Councillor Donaldson were the nominated substitute members. Can I welcome you to this hearing for application in respect of Al-Aruba Cafe, 391A, Coventry Road, Small Heath, Birmingham, E10 0SP. Again, some introductions. I am the chair of the subcommittee, Councillor Philip Davis, and with me are members of the subcommittee, Councillors Mary Locke and Councillor Diane Donaldson.
Good morning, Chair.
Good morning. Also present in the meeting are the following officers: the licensing officer, Shahid Yasser, the committee manager, Kate Townsend, and the committee lawyer, Joanne Swampillai. And what I'd like to now do is come to the parties here today. I think we have one party in attendance, and that is Mr. Gorez Siddiq. Mr. Siddiq, would you like to turn your
camera on?
Yes, just to introduce yourself. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's fine. Thank you. We'll bring you in later on. You'll have a chance to make your representations and so on. I'm just going through the procedure at the moment. So if you kindly turn your camera off again, thank you. Now, those making representations, they are entitled to attend, but no one has attended, and these would be represented from the planning department, which has made a representation, and an organisation called Waste Warriors. We will obviously look at their written submissions and pay them appropriate attention. None of the persons attending making representations is here, so they're not in a position to withdraw their representations at this stage of the hearing. So I'll just go on to again talk about process. I assume all parties have read and understood the Licensing Committee's procedural rules sent out with the notice for today's hearing. And given the nature of today's proceedings, I may at my discretion amend the procedural rules to reflect the fact that this meeting is taking place online, but wish to underline that any such amendment will not impact on the party's right to a fair hearing. We use the chat function, which I think people are familiar with. Mr. Siddiq, that allows you to put a message onto the system, and using the chat icon on your computer. When What we're going to do now is just confirm we've all got access to chat. It's a useful way of recording the attendance as well. So we're all going to put our names into the chat function. So if you could do that, please, everyone. Thank you very much. Having said that, of course, I've now lost the speech bubble. There we are. Okay, I'm just putting my details in there. So thank you to everyone for recording that. There we are. And so back into the main part of the meeting. If I can get my pictures back up. There we are. Okay. You can use the chat function throughout the meeting to indicate any issues, but of course you can also signify that you want to speak in the normal way verbally. I don't think anybody is in on this meeting by audio telephone. We're all on the main online system. So with the exception of subcommittee members, please keep your camera off unless you're the person speaking. If there are problems with bandwidth, which cause difficulties with the sound, I may, in my discretion, ask everyone to turn their cameras off in order that the meeting can proceed with everyone able to hear and be heard. Mr. Sadiq, if I may come to you, there's a point at this stage of the meeting where we ask if anybody has any procedural issues, but you have your opportunity to put your main case later. Do you have any procedural issues, any preliminary points you want to make?
No, not at this moment in time.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Okay, so procedure that follows will be that firstly the licensing officer, Mr. Shahid Yasser, will present the report. Then Mr. Sadiq will be asked to present the case for the applicants, and this will be kept to approximately 20 minutes. We don't have anybody making representations, so again, as I've said, we will pay attention as the panel members to the written representations. That's all we can do in the absence of any attendance. And if I can ask all parties to speak slowly and clearly as possible, because officers are taking notes for the minutes, and the meeting is also being live streamed on the City's Council website. And again, if at any time it's somebody else's turn to speak, please mute your microphone and use the chat function if necessary. Members of the subcommittee will be able to ask questions at any stage, but we'll try to do so at the conclusion of the presentation. Cross-examination doesn't arise because there are no other parties here today. Where questions are raised by members of the subcommittee or by those present, again, indicate verbally, but or use the chat function, but basically catch my attention as chair. If you're having problems at any point with your internet connection, again, please use the chat facility to alert the meeting manager. I can then ask the person speaking to repeat or take other steps to make sure that communication is re-established. So again, if people could mute their microphones when they're not speaking and turn off the cameras when they're not speaking, that will assist communication. It may occasionally be necessary for the subcommittee to take legal advice. At my discretion, I may ask all parties to wait in the meeting while members and the relevant officers withdraw to take advice using a separate meeting within Microsoft Teams. We'll then return to this meeting and continue. Please note that if any time the live stream being broadcast on the Council's website fails, I'll ask you all to mute your microphones and cameras and to stop speaking until the live stream is restored. If at any time the meeting goes into private session, the meeting manager will pause the live stream. Once the private part of the meeting is over, I'll ask the meeting manager to confirm that the live stream has resumed before we continue. Then at the conclusion of the hearing, I'll invite all parties to make a brief closing submission. The one party in this case who's attending. And I stress no decision will be taken until all the evidence has been heard. At the decision-making stage, the members and the relevant officers will withdraw from this meeting in order to determine the decision. They'll go into a separate Microsoft Teams meeting. In the event that the members need to clarify any point, we will ask the meeting manager to telephone the relevant person. The members will then make their decision. Notification of the determination of the application will be sent out to all parties within 5 days. So that is the procedure. And so what I'd now like to do is ask the licensing officer, Mr. Shahid Yasser, to present the report, please. Mr. Yasser.
Thank you, Chair. Al Aruba Cafe Limited applied on the 21st of June 2021 for the grant of a premises license for Al Aruba Cafe 391A Coventry Road, Small Heath, Birmingham, B10 0SP. Councillors, the purpose of the report before you today is to consider representations that have been made in respect of an application for a premises licence which seeks to permit the provision of late night refreshment to operate indoors only from 11 p.m. until 5 a.m. Monday to Sunday. The premises wish to remain open to the public 24 hours a day, Monday to Sunday. Representations have been received from the Planning Department, which is a responsible authority, and this is attached to Appendix 1. A representation has been received from other persons, and this is attached to Appendix 2. The application is attached to Appendix 3. Conditions have been agreed with West Midlands Police and the applicant, and these are attached to Appendix 4 of your report. Now, when carrying out its licensing function, a licensing authority must have regard to the City Council's Statement of Licensing Policy, the guidance issued by the Secretary of State under Section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003. The licensing authority is also required to take such steps as it considers appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives. The options which are available to you today are to grant the license in accordance with the application, to reject the application, to grant the license subject to conditions modified to such an extent as you consider appropriate, or to exclude from the license any of the licensable activities to which the application relates. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Yasser. There was a slight interference on my reception. Did members hear that presentation okay?
Yes, Chair.
Councillor Donaldson, was your reception okay?
My reception was fine, thank you, Chair.
Okay, good. Mr. Siddiq, did you hear all that okay?
Yes, that was fine. Thank you.
Okay, that's all right. Must have been just my line then. Thank you for that. Okay. So, Mr. Siddiq, it is now your opportunity to make a presentation in support of the licence application by the cafe. So, if you'd like to address us, and you'll be aware that there's an existing planning condition. We're not bound by what the planning department does because we're a separate determination body. But it would be interesting to hear your view on the views of the planning department, particularly, who are putting an objection to your proposal. So over to you, Mr. Siddiq.
Thank you, Chair and Councillors, for giving the opportunity to speak in relation to this 24-hour operation for the coffee shop. The main point, what we're finding, as the brief has been given to us by the client, is that the local community require this type of service in order to fit the social activities for the late hours of operation. There's a lot of local community who are nurses and doctors and various work time operations are required for a late operation in order for a coffee shop. Majority of the community in that area are from the Arab subcontinent, and what we're finding is that their social activity falls around a coffee shop. And this is the reason why the demand is there, and the requirement is for our client, Mr. Sharif, to take the service on, or to provide the service. In order to keep the service to a professional and good level, they have requested that is for operation for indoors, so no outdoor seating. And also there's a manager in place, which would be 24 hours. There's two managers who take a shift of 24 hours, basically 12 hours each. And the staff are trained in order for hygiene and safety purposes in the coffee shop itself. In relation to the waste that has been built up over the period of the 30 days of the fasting period, what is happening is the client is closing the shop at about 11 o'clock. He's a senior member of a local community, and he goes off there to provide community services, and people are fly tipping who are taking on the space by putting some form of outdoor stalls without the consent of any of the landlords along that parade of shops. And that is where the waste has been built up and caused the issue. It's not that the client is providing service and he's open and the waste tipping is occurring during that period of time. It is during the period of time when it was closed. So I did speak with the client that would he be taking on the opportunity to reduce the hours rather than 24 hours. And he did mention that that would be a possible feasible way forward if required. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Sadiq. You get a chance to come in later to sum up, but my colleagues are now are going to ask you some questions if they wish. So, Councillor Donaldson, would you like to ask any questions?
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to ask about the waste. Is there a commercial contract in place that is appropriate for the level of waste that will be generated?
Yes, Councillor. Like I said before, there is a commercial contract in place. There are the appropriate wheelie bins that are in place and that are utilised. On a weekly basis, it's not an issue. If you notice, the complaint has occurred during the 30 days of fasting when there are illegal stores being carried out along that parade, which have caused the tipping. So what's happening is the stores are open late night till about 4 o'clock in the morning, and the fly tipping is occurring. They're not clearing up. So the owners of the shops are coming in the morning and finding fly tipping there. They're then getting in contact with the council, and it's taken a few day process for them to get it shifted. The client has, on a couple of occasions, organised a skip himself to get rid of the rubbish. So the concern is during that month when the client himself, he's a senior priest in the local mosque, and he goes at about 10 o'clock to go and do the prayers during the night because he leads the prayers, and he's not able to stand at his premises, although he closes in the evening at 11 o'clock, and this is the issue that's occurring, you see. So it's not done by the client themselves, it is fly tipping, and I believe that waste organisation that have put a complaint in will have confirmed that in their email as well, that it is fly tipping that's occurring.
Okay, thank you. And are the street vendors no longer there now that
They're not there at the moment. What happens is during the month of Ramadan, for the 30 days of fast, people come because there's a large congregation in the local community facilities, and that is what's causing it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sadiq.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Locke.
Yes, I've got a question. Just going on from that, I know there's other businesses as well. Could not the businesses get together and have a trade waste bin and have collection there when that happens during the 30 days of Ramadan, or could they do that?
Councillor, like I stated, the issue that's occurring, it's the stalls that come on there come on late on, so they come on after these shops are closed, and confronted by the landlords, there has been a situation where, because some of the youngsters are putting the stalls on there without permission, without any legal aspect, and they've already removed the waste on some occasions, but because it's an ongoing thing for that 30-day period, they're finding that they're not able to financially be able to do that community-wise. So what I've asked them to do is, in the future, or the next fasting period, is to actually get the local environmental services involved and report it to them that this is what's happening, so they come out and they catch them red-handed, basically.
Okay. Can I ask when deliveries, deliveries of food are, items for the shop are made, or during the day?
Yeah, the deliveries are done during the daytime.
Okay.
They're normally done before 12 o'clock.
Okay. And you mentioned the staff being trained. Is the training regularly updated every so often on logs for training?
Yeah, generally, I mean, all the staff are first aiders. Staff are taught in principle in terms of security to how to safeguard themselves and safeguard others. There's never been an issue there, to be honest with you. It's a very good community in that area. You'll never hear of, and you can ask the police department, there's not an issue in terms of violence or anything like that. But in principle, the request by the staffing is please stay indoors during operation hours. There's no stalls put out, there's no seating put outside in the evening. It's only the daytime that they're seating, and then the seating is taken indoors, basically.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Sadiq, can I ask you to look at page 25? It's 25 or 23 on the bundle we've got. It's a map, basically, that shows the location of the premises, 391A on the Coventry Road, obviously, as you know. And I just wondered if you could tell us, is there any residential property nearby? Because that seemed to be one of the aspects of the planning condition that was applied. Again, I say we're not bound by the planning condition, but it is a consideration often for us is obviously, would this cause any potential nuisance? I'm not saying it would, but is there an issue potentially around neighbours, residential neighbours, rather than shops next door? And so if you could paint a picture of the residential nearby, that would be very helpful to the committee.
Chair, we've had a look at this. Adjacent, they're all single-storey shops. The shops, the first floor is set back considerably from the actual retail frontage. Adjacent, above Road Angels, which is, you've got Hanif and Company solicitors on one side, and you've got other two coffee shops on the other side. So immediately within the surrounding and opposite, we've got the Al Rayan Bank, which has got no residential above. We've got on the other side, there's Zubayn, which is food related, and Taj Services. Above those two properties is a community centre. So there's not, in the immediate vicinity, there's no real residential that would be affected in any negative way.
Okay, thank you very much for that. That's very helpful clarification. Don't think I have any other questions. Okay, so as we don't have any representations from the persons who put in objections, we actually go back to you now, Mr. Sadiq, for a final word, if you like. If you want to summarise your client's proposal and in support of it.
Thank you, Chair. The main requirement for the client is to provide a coffee shop for 24-hour services in order to provide social activities within the local community that is requested by a lot of various customers who are coming late in the evening, and they have nighttime shifts, or early breakfast is also requested by a lot of the clients. In order to fulfill this requirement, the client has requested that they be able to open 24 hours. We feel that there's no antisocial behaviour that has been reported in any way or form in the area. There's no criminal offence that's been reported in the local area. The social activity of the local community is around the coffee shops, and you'll see there's not one, but there's many coffee shops in that area, and they're very buoyant, and they do provide a comfortable environment, which this service is looking to provide, but on a 24-hour service. So we request the committee to have a look at this in a positive manner in order to fulfil this requirement that the customer has requested. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Siddiq, for your help on that. That's much appreciated. So now actually we come to the decision, and ask all parties to leave the Teams meeting, and the members of the committee lawyer and the committee manager will go into private session while the subcommittee makes its decision. Mr. Siddiq, you'll be notified of the decision of the subcommittee within 5 working days. So thank you very much.
Thank you,
colleagues.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, everyone.